Imagine you had mashed together both Jurassic Park, Alien, and the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Hello.
And they all got together and had some weird kind of film orgy that like mashed the weirdest and best parts of them together. You would get today's topic of discussion: W.A.R.T. W.A.R.T is best described as VHS's poster boy, and the first killer to be revealed by the game's developers Hellbent Games. But how did our cute little lizard boy come to be? Well, let's find out. W.A.R.T, which stands for Weaponized Amphibious Replicant Technology, was a creature developed by Replicorp, a company trying to use it as a bioweapon that they could sell to the highest bidder. W.A.R.T was created via what I can only imagine was a fusion of many different lizard DNA, as well as being held in a special chamber within the centre of the facility. We can see said chamber within the facility map. W.A.R.T spent all his life inside the chamber until one day he noticed that those who oversaw his containment had changed over, and so, seeing this as an opportunity, broke out. Looking at the aftermath portrayed in the facility map, it seems that W.A.R.T used one of the power nodes powering his containment cell as some kind of weak point and pushed through it. Upon leaving, W.A.R.T saw the big boss who watched over him. W.A.R.T's words, not ours. His whole story is kind of done from a first person perspective. Upon seeing this, said big boss ordered the room to be filled with sedative gas. W.A.R.T at this point, having grown immune due to being exposed to sedation before, simply ignored the gas's effect, and we'll get back to W.A.R.T's adaptation later. In response, the boss handed over a briefcase containing W.A.R.T embryos to a mysterious man in a suit, these embryos obviously being baby versions of our little lizard boy over here. W.A.R.T then proceeded to chase this man to the exit of the facility, that being the helipad that we can see outside the window inside the facility map. Upon catching up to the man, W.A.R.T proceeded to decapitate him, only to find that the briefcase was now empty. Upon returning to the facility, W.A.R.T caught sight of the boss, realising that she actually still had the W.A.R.T embryos. In response, the boss shot W.A.R.T with a gun that contained W.A.R.T's kill switch and forced a lockdown. After shaking off the shot again, thanks to mutating against all forms of containment, W.A.R.T then broke out of the lockdown in the way that he had remembered watching the humans do, chasing down the boss and catching her just before she stepped onto a cargo train, ripping off her arm and managing to save the embryos. And with that, W.A.R.T retreated into the facility, ready to raise a family of its own, as it were. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of W.A.R.T. So, how does he work? Well, W.A.R.T, true to his character, is a very adaptive and flexible monster. His playstyle can evolve depending on how the game is going, whether you need to pick up the aggression or begin to play defensively where you wait for the perfect window to strike. This can be shown via W.A.R.T's abilities. These are Leap, Acid Armor, and Echolocation. Each of these fill roles that help W.A.R.T stay in the know and stay on top of the teams. Just like me staying on top of your mum. Leap allows W.A.R.T to charge for 0.7 seconds and then leap forward, landing and creating a shockwave that will cause any team within 6 meters to stagger, slowing their movement speed for 1 second. This can be used to close gaps as well as pressure teams using weapons to the point where you can even leap through some attacks sometimes and get a cheeky hit in when other monsters couldn't. This and Leap also has a lot more to it than just how it seems. Its shockwave can be used around walls, meaning you can use this to stall teams at chases to start or stop them from reaching windows on maps, like on High School, and you can generate free hits from this more often than you can think. It's also got some funky shit when you use it upstairs as well as around corners. I kind of like to treat it like drifting in a kart racer where you charge up a boost before releasing it at the shortest angle to catch up to a teen, which means it can be very useful when trying to catch a teen out just before they make a window. Acid Armor is W.A.R.T's main defensive ability, After charging for 1.5 seconds, W.A.R.T will then be shielded from damage for 12 seconds, or until it's broken via enough damage from a weapon. When being hit by a weapon, W.A.R.T will then flinch for a second, not being able to do anything. This is where one of W.A.R.T's main weaknesses lies. This armor will tank only one hit, and only one, meaning that when teams are coordinated and stack damage types, it feels like there's genuinely nothing you can do. And they will break your armor with one and cause damage with another damage type, and seeing you go back to the Shadow Realm. Whilst you sit and rage about how goddamn fucking close you were to strangling a little. Last off, we have echolocation. This is where our scaly boy will let out his inner frog as you guttural croak across the whole map, before coming back to him within 2.5 seconds, showing him the location with every teen via these after images for 8.5 seconds. An important thing to note is that these after images show the positions of teens, so take time to note of what they are doing. Maybe they're crafting a weapon that you haven't taken damage from yet and you should pressure them, or maybe they're running to the station in question. Use this information to cut them off and stop them. But at this point in the game, also bear in mind that these teens can see the after image themselves, and so can actually play around this, baiting you, so you're not always going to find them where you expect them to go. So when you put all these abilities together, you now get a super fluid combination of aggro and defensive playstyles, where you try to pile on as much pressure early before switching onto the defense, picking your targets carefully, or you can just choose to tweak your playstyle thanks to W.A.R.T's mutations, which we are about to get onto. Right, mutations. What are mutations? Well, mutations are fun little mutations you can add to your power. These will basically change up certain aspects, so each ability gets 3, so we're just going to jump straight into them, and I'll explain more about them when I cover VHS as a topic. So, starting off with Leap. Bombshell is up first, and a great side grade for Leap. It strengthens its chase ability at the cost of some of its utility due to the increased recharge time, but at the same time, it can really help you cut off angles and stop teens from getting to places you don't want them to, such as other teens with weapons or windows. And don't forget that Shockwave does go through walls, so this comes in handy a lot more often than you'd expect. Throttle is next, and does more than what it says on the tin actually. You see, with how Leap works, more speed ultimately equals more distance, making this more of a fair trade-off with the extra focusing time, as the two ultimately equal each other out. But this can sometimes help you with an ambush, or give you much extra distance, so sometimes I'd recommend using this at the start of a chase. But just remember, this speed does not apply to you taking damage. And that will make a lot of difference when you start to realise that leaping at teens with weapons directly isn't always smart. Pulling a 180 and scaring the shit out of them with it does though. So try that one when you get the chance. You'd be surprised how often teens fall for that, even with the experienced ones. And last off, we have Kinetic. This one I have mixed feelings about, as W.A.R.T Shockwave has a lot of utility when it comes to guaranteeing hits, although I can see its potential. That giving Leap the read more often can lead to you being able to use it more adaptively instead of just throwing all you've got into one attack, and that leads to you being able to also get out of dodge more frequently. So give it a go, see how you feel, that's what I'd say. Personally I like it, but I wouldn't always be running it as I much prefer the other two mutations. Acid Armor has some very interesting ones, starting out with Immune. Immune is just fantastic. It's great even. It's probably the best out of the three, and it's the first one you unlock, which is incredible. Being able to have your armor ready to go more often is just a straight up upgrade, and the downside for this thing is practically non-existent, given how you'd be surprised how little teens will break your armor, as instead they will try to just slow you down with the weaponry so they can make distance and save their weapon, because if they break your armor with it, they ultimately lose their weapon as well. Fluid is kind of meh. It's alright. It's kind of good, but with how good Immune is, it has a problem competing, because The movement speed buff is okay, but then you understand that W.A.R.T literally has a movement speed ability that can be used whilst armor is active. I don't know if it stacks. If it stacks, it could be interesting, but I'll have to look into that. And if anybody does know, post in the comments and I will pin that for you. Toxic is ass. It's bad. W.A.R.T literally has a perk that does this for them all the time and not just when the armor's active. You'd think the extra damage would be great, but immune just gives you the armor often, saving you from hits. And extra damage isn't always needed compared to stopping you from taking a damage type. And I just generally think you could run either two mutations into place of this and you'd be getting a straight upgrade. When it comes to echolocation, Detect is extremely solid. Knowing which teams are armed can really help you know when to change your gameplay accordingly, as unless you pay very close attention to how long the team has been at a station and if they're now heading towards a specific location, you may not actually know if they're armed or not. Mimic is alright, very solid, it's definitely better than base. To be honest, the longer focusing time doesn't really matter when you get to see exactly where the teams are going, therefore avoiding a lot of the duking that comes with it. They can still play into it if they're smart enough, but it can kind of help you get a really good idea of what the team is actually planning to do. Deafen is weird. I just don't know how to feel about it. I get what they were trying to do with this, but at the same time, I don't think having acid armor disabled for 4.5 seconds is any form of a fair trade-off for simply deafening teens. Even with how important sound is to the core gameplay aspects of VHS, it just doesn't feel like a good trade-off in general. Now, the way things work in VHS is each monster has 3 unique perks you can unlock, and all monsters then get to use them. So, let's have a look at W.A.R.T's, and I'm going to be honest with you, we have some pretty solid perks. W.A.R.T's 3 unique perks are All-Consuming, Easy Target, and Lethal Weapon. So let's go from the start. All-Consuming is fairly solid. Feasting isn't something you'll be doing very often, but the build speed that you get from using it even at tier 1 shows when you actually do. Just maybe don't focus all your time into feasting when you have this perk, or you'll lose out on stalling teens at crafting stations, and that means you just end up losing your rage altogether when you take a hit. Easy Target is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, given how little tracking abilities you actually get in this game. This can be quite useful if you want to know when teens start to heal together, giving you a good opportunity to pressure them off the heal and get an easy down on an injured teen, or maybe you've got rage and therefore you can go for the fully healed ones healing them. Lethal Weapon is nuts. The fact that you can just straight up increase your effectiveness at achieving your main goal does not sound like a fair perk. But then again, all the teens have weapons of their own, so why not make your own more lethal? This perk used to be better, but now it is still incredibly good, and if you want to win, you should be running this on every monster. There are one thing that I need to check with this, and I'm going to go find out eventually. Obviously, this is still a relatively new game. I need to find out if this ability affects Dollmaster's dolls. I imagine it should, but just to be sure. Overall, run this perk on every monster, every game. Do not ever not use this, and just get it as quickly as possible, because you will be winning games with this perk, guaranteed. So, I bet you all want to know, how do I think you, a valuable Ginger Gamer subscriber, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, we have got more VHS content coming your way very soon, should play W.A.R.T? Well, I think you need to play W.A.R.T a bit like you'd go on a first date. If you show up and they seem relatively nice and normal, then keep going the way you'd originally planned. But if they start to get aggressive, back the fuck off and think of the perfect moment to strike. Well, okay, maybe there is a reason I'm single. What I'm trying to say is, play W.A.R.T by ear. So start up, super aggressive, bounce off teens, make pressure, go for hits as often as you can. And then the minute you start seeing things start to tip balance-wise in terms of teens getting weapons and them becoming more aggressive, start to back off and play defensively. Wait for your right moment to strike. Look for weaknesses in their defenses. Look at how their strategy works. Are they hiding behind objects? If so, pop acid armor and leap through it and go for the one hiding, because you're not going to catch that one because the others are going to slow you down. My point is, play W.A.R.T as he was intended. Play him adaptively. And you know, honestly, I'm still shocked they labelled this guy as easy, because I think he's one of the best examples as to what VHS has to offer as a game. He's incredible, he's unique, he's adaptive, and he's fun to play. I'm gonna be honest. When I first made this video, I did not like him very much, but then I started to play him, and he grew on me a lot. He'll never beat Dollmaster for me, but he definitely got close. A lot better than the other bipedal dickhead. Overall, as I said, I like W.A.R.T, and he shows off a lot of what VHS and its unique gameplay loop has to offer. So if you don't have it, go get it. It's free on PC, and I'm sure the devs are looking to port it to other systems now. Anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for next time, while I'll be covering my least favourite monster. This game has a lot to offer, and until then, take this video as some advice to do whatever you want with. Play the game however you want, and do whatever makes you have fun. This has been the Ginger Gamer, and I will see you in the next one. See you in the VHS store, guys.